Here's a stat that should terrify every executive in America. 86% of employees and executives cite the lack of collaboration or ineffective communication as the cause of workplace failures. 86%. That means the number one thing killing your company is not competition, it's not product, it's not even your strategy. It's the fact that your leaders can't open their mouths and say something worth following. Terry Pearce wrote a book about fixing that. The question is, does he actually fix it, or does he just give you a prettier way to stagnate? We'll find out here. The number one thing killing your company is not your competition, it's the fact that your leaders cannot say something worth following. Remember that as we go through this. My name is Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin, and the author of this book, The Unfair Advantage Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. But today, we are doing a Stagnation Assassin book review of Leading Out Loud by Terry Pearce. So I want you to get ready for a hard hitting, bold, relentless review of this leadership communication classic. And we are going to decide whether it should be sitting on your shelf or not. Terry Pearce, Business Week called him the eminence grace of executive coaches. He taught at Berkeley's Haas Business School and London Business School. His client list reads like a Fortune 500 fantasy draft, and his book, originally published back in 1995, is now in its third edition. And it argues one central thesis. If you want to lead change, you have to communicate authentically from both the mind and the heart. He calls it the Personal Leadership Communication Guide, a framework for making every message, from a boardroom speech to a water cooler conversation, a vehicle for genuine connection and commitment. Now, in a world drowning in corporate buzzwords and PowerPoint paralysis, does this book cut through the noise? Let's find out. We're going to get into the meat and we're going to talk about what this book gets right. First, and I need to give credit where credit creates carnage against complacency. Pearce absolutely nails the connection between internal conviction and external communication. He argues that before you can inspire anyone else, you need to do the deep personal work of understanding why you believe what you believe, your values, your experiences, and your emotional truth. Most leaders fail at communication not because they can't talk, they fail because they have nothing authentic to say. This is the page I dog eared so hard that the book almost fell apart. Because in my experience transforming Fortune 500 divisions, the leaders who drove the most devastating results were not the ones with the best slide decks. They usually were the ones with the mediocre slide decks. And they were the ones who walked into a room and you felt their conviction in your chest. Pearce gives you a process for finding that conviction, and that is extremely valuable. Second, the neuroscience of empathy section in the third edition is brilliant. Pearce pulls in research showing that authentic communication literally activates mirror neurons in your audience. When you speak from genuine emotional awareness, your listeners' brains synchronize with yours. This isn't motivational mumbo jumbo. This is measurable, mechanical momentum in the minds of your people. Your brain does not follow PowerPoint slides, it follows people who mean what they say. Third, the emphasis on spontaneous everyday communication is a precision strike against stagnation. Most leadership communication books obsess over the big speech or the keynote or the town hall. Pearce argues that the real war is won in the hallway conversations, in the emails, in the moments between meetings. And you know what? After thinking about it, he's absolutely right. When I doubled EBITDA at Fortune 500 divisions, it wasn't because of one great speech. It was because of every single interaction that reinforced the same relentless message of transformation. My teams often make fun of me for saying the same thing over and over again. Now, the murder board. Every book gets one. Here's where Pearce gets a little too comfortable, and comfort is where companies go to die. Problem one, this book is drowning in deliberate delicacy. Pearce writes beautifully about emotional awareness, about empathy, about the deepening of emotional intelligence. And look, those things matter. But at some point, a leader needs to stop contemplating their navel and start cutting the sacred cows. This book gives you a lot of introspection, but not enough operational instruction on what to do when your authentic message meets a hostile board, meets a resistant middle management layer, meets a workforce that's been lied to by the last three CEOs or directors or whatever your position is. Authenticity without operational teeth is just a diary entry with a corner office. Great theory, problematic in a turnaround. I know because I've lived it. And when you're trying to transform a $1 billion business unit, you need more than empathy. You need execution frameworks that survive contact with the enemy. Pearce's personal leadership communication guide is beautiful on paper, but it's missing the tactical turbulence that real transformation demands. Problem two, the book is heavily tilted towards education and nonprofit sectors, which almost none of us are in. The case studies, the examples, the exercises, they skew academic. If you're a Fortune 500 operator looking for battlefield tested communication strategies, you'll have to do significant translation work to apply this in a high stakes corporate environment. Problem three, it is long. Reviewers consistently note that this book could deliver the same impact in half the pages. And in a world where executives are drowning in information, a book that could be tighter is a book that's enabling the very stagnation that it claims to fight. If your leadership book needs a leadership book to get through it, then you have already lost the war that you're supposedly fighting. So the stagnation verdict on this one is a little bit rough. We're giving it 3 kills out of 5. Leading out loud is a solid but safe addition to your arsenal. The core insight that authentic, values driven communication is the foundation of transformational leadership is absolutely correct. I could not agree more. The neuroscience sections do add credible firepower. And the emphasis on everyday communication over grand gestures is a perspective that most leaders desperately need to hear. But this book plays it too soft for operators in the trenches, which I know most of us here are. It's heavy on contemplation, it's light on confrontation, and we need some of that. It'll help you find your voice, but it won't teach you how to use that voice to wage war on the sacred cows that are bleeding your company dry. If you're an executive coach or an aspiring leader building your foundation, this book is probably worth your time. But if you're a turnaround operator who needs communication weapons for the boardroom or the battlefield, you'll get value from part one, you'll probably skim part two, and you'll really wish that part three had more teeth. Solid, but safe. Good ideas wrapped in too much comfort. So 3 kills out of 5. That's the conclusion there. That's the verdict on leading out loud. Now, if you want a book that doesn't just find your voice, but actually weaponizes it, you're going to want to pick up my book, The Unfair Advantage, Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox, available everywhere that books are sold. And subscribe to the Stagnation Assassin Show where you get your podcast. You also want to visit toddhagopian.com and stagnationassassins.com for the full arsenal to declare war on stagnation. And remember, your people do not need you to be more authentic. They need you to be more dangerous. Authenticity is the ammunition, execution is the weapon. Now go declare war on stagnation in your organization.